Patrick here, Have Cheetah Will View, and we are back with another film review. The film that we will be reviewing today is a 2024 SiMP, written and directed by Tremain Heyhoe, and also stars Brooke Piedra as Jessica, Mike Markoff as Dan, Bunny Stewart as Alma the bartender, Rucka Ali as John, and N.J. Brown as Officer Patterson, and Crystal Ferreira as Amber. So the movie starts off with we see a young blonde with a carrying case and a luggage case, and she gets dropped off at this location, and she thinks she's there for a photo shoot. And as she approaches this storage place, the door comes up and she walks in, and she immediately gets attacked and drugged. She's put in the back of a car by two masked characters who are dressed up like medieval doctors with the bird beaks and everything. So they kidnap her, and they're driving her to a location, and the two gentlemen are definitely we could definitely tell that they're friends. They're up to they've done this before. And the leader appears to be Dan. Dan appears to be the leader, and so they drive up to a location, and basically they have kept Jessica in the car for hours upon hours, and she has no idea where she's at. And any thought about the movie being a little bit, like dramatic and dark? I think it pretty much got wiped out in the very first scene. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm actually saying that's actually a good thing, because to get an idea what this movie was what direction it was gonna go. As opens up the trunk, we see that Jessica's top has slightly slipped, and what they call a nip slip. And we see one of the gentlemen, he delicately, he approaches it like it's kryptonite. He's putting his hand on there, like, ooh, like gross. He expected him halfway to say cooties. So he puts it over there. He puts it at the top over her out of act of decency, but the way he did it was just like, okay. And then they drop her off. And we see that Dan is the man left behind. He tells the other guy that he came up with that his services are no longer needed. That he has done all he could do, and that's it. He doesn't need to come back up here anymore. Of course, his friend's not too happy about that, but he goes ahead and he leaves. And we find out that what appears to be an organized crime, organized human trafficking ring. Dan and his partner are kidnapping girls, and then they're bringing them up here and then putting them online and selling them to the highest bidder. But the girls also get a chance to raise their own ransom. If they're well known enough or their family has money, they can raise money to free them. It turns out that Jessica is a pretty well known social media personality, and she has a large following, so maybe there's some hope there. We see that Dan and Jessica, they immediately start, Jessica's not happy to be where she's at. She's locked up, and Dan is not a nice guy. He basically is trying to break down Jessica from day one by making her drink water and eat food like a dog. And it gets a little dark there, like, wow, that's a little rough. But soon enough they start talking, and I gotta say, one thing I really have to say, I really appreciated this too, is that Tremain Heyhoe did not go into tropes. He did not go into, now she's gonna rant and rave against him. Now he's gonna slap her around, or they're gonna be, or they're gonna fall in love. Or stuff like that. No, he plays it straight throughout, but with a comedic touch. And we see Jessica and Dan, and they start talking to each other at first. At first, it's a little rough. Dan seems to be, like his job is to sort of break her down psychologically, but that's not working. Jessica is a very strong-minded young lady, and and she keeps her cool and wits around her. And so enough that Dan and her start to bond a little bit, even though he has to keep her locked up. But eventually, she earns his trust to where she doesn't have to be locked up. And Dan even chases away one potential client who wants to come up there and sample her without paying the price. Whereas normally you get the impression that Dan would have did that. He's not doing it anymore, and certainly not with this girl. And he makes sure that the guy finds out that he's not doing that. Um, and so the two talk. Dan does seem to be a little bit sadistic, but I think he's more insecure than sadistic. I didn't get the sadistic part of him. I definitely got the insecurity part of him. Like he feels like he has to. He's afraid to share his feelings because they're going to get hurt. So he'll allow Jessica a certain length of rope, so to speak, and then pull it back. But Jessica keeps her cool. She's waiting, and she's waiting for for the break. Meanwhile, we find out that Jessica's mom has found out that she's been kidnapped, and so she calls Jessica's ex-boyfriend to help find her. Um, Guy's a tool. Yeah, and then again, this is when you start noticing that this movie is not being played for serious. It's not like it's a comedy with slightly dramatic overtones to it. Um, but the real star, well, Jessica's waiting for her the gap that she can use to escape, and she does, and it's probably the most dramatic moment of the whole movie. But even that has turned out to be okay, and you have to see the movie to find out why. Um, I really like this. I wasn't sure because of the term simp, but simp is like the word simp, which is used as like a one-sided relationship. You ever see like one person cares for one person far more than the other does the other? It's a simp or simpleton. Came from simpleton. But of course, it's misused, right? It's misused. Everybody says this. Oh, you're a simp. Wow, because you exercise some sort of kindness towards somebody, and all of a sudden they're a simp. No, a simp. I mean, even in this movie, the term simp, as defined what it is, it really doesn't apply to this movie. I didn't really get that. I felt the characters were evenly matched. Um, and But Jessica didn't want to be there, and she definitely, even though she did talk to Dan, there wasn't like Dan was coming on to her at all. I mean, not really. There's a couple of scenes where Dan's expressing himself per se, but not in front of Jessica. Um, but I thought that I just wanted to talk about the term simp because it goes for the movie. I mean, it's a great title for a movie, but I think I think Tremain wrote his character stronger than that. His characters are strong. The only one who's a simp, I would actually sit there and say this fits, would be the boyfriend, the ex-boyfriend. But then we find out that he cheated on Jessica, so I don't know if that makes him a simp because now he just makes him a low, a dirty cheater, but not like fawning all over her and whatever she does or however she does it, he's going to be there because obviously that wasn't the case. Um, but hats off for Tremain and Brooke and Mike, Mike Markoff, Brooke Piedra, and Tremain Heyhoe for putting together a really solid movie. This is a very good movie. The one-on-one interaction between the two, between Jessica and Dan, you do sort of, you sort of wish that you think that in a different life, they might have been something. Dan hasn't always been who he was. We don't really understand why he got to where he was, but he is there. And that's the only thing that matters. He is there. He is kidnapping girls. We don't know if he's 100% bluffing or not. Um, Of course, at the end of the movie was interesting too, but I'll leave that up to you to see how the end of the movie plays out, and it does ring very true. This was supposedly loosely based on a true story. I don't know what story that was, but I would like to read about it. um, so I got this as a streamer, so I don't know if there's any special features on it, any interviews, any commentaries. All I do know that I'm not sure if it's going to get a physical release either, but I do know that Tremain and hopefully Brooke will come out and hang out with us on July 31st for 8 Questions With. We're going to see if we can get Brooke and Tremain to come out and talk to us. I know for sure Tremain is. Hopefully Brooke will as well. She's a stunning actress too. She is beautiful. She is, yeah. I've noticed that. That's yeah. And Mike, of course, Mike Markoff, looking dashing and debonair. He broke out this summer with Hitman, starring Clem Powell. He's featured in that movie as in a big role, and he's got another horror movie coming along, hopefully up this summer, as a takeoff on The Little Mermaid. So good things are happening for these people. I can't wait to see. I can't wait to talk to Tremain, and I can't wait for you to see this movie. I will leave a. I'm going to leave the interviews with Mike that we've done with him. I'm going to leave them down in the description box, and go ahead and take a look at that. And also Bunny Stewart. Bunny Stewart has a key role in this movie as well. And I'll leave the interview that we did with Bunny in the description box below, so you can go meet her as well. All right, that's it for this interview. Thanks so much for watching. We will talk at you soon. Oh, leave a comment, hit the like button, and if you haven't subscribed to the page, subscribe. Thank you.